Hey y'all, this is Tyler Blake from TylerBlakeArt.com, and I am having a little bit of a problem right now. So, I started coloring my comic book. I'd have to go back and check it. Well, it was. I suppose it was after I finished my 100 Days of Making Comics challenge, but I started running dry on some of my Copic colors back in October, and I checked. I usually get the various ink refills on Dick Blick, because none of the local stores carry something like that. At least where I was living at the time. Um, my wife and I have recently moved to Utah, and anyhow, so back in October, Blick said, "Oh, well, we'll have those in November," and I'm like, "Okay, you know." And, at the time we were getting ready to sell our house, and I was busy and trying to put things in place at the job I was getting ready to leave, so that they'd be okay and all that. And so I was working on some other pencils and inks on different things, and then in November I checked with Blick, and they said, "Oh, we'll have it in December," and I'll give you a couple guesses on what they said in December, and now they're saying February. So I looked up. They're going through a business reorganization, and Copics, excuse me, Copic is going, not Blick, but Copic is going through a business reorganization, and it's messing with distribution. And I checked, you know, if I could find, and some places will have some stuff in stock, but they don't have the colors that I need in stock. And if when I can find them in stock, the prices have doubled or tripled because people are taking advantage of the situation. So, it kind of chaps my hide, because when I first learned about Copic markers, I was like, I'm not going to spend that much on a marker. Are you crazy? But then when I found out they were refillable for a fraction of the cost, and that you can replace the nib, so basically you buy it once and it lasts you the rest of your life, is the way that's supposed to work. Um, and I'm sure the situation will be resolved, but right now I'm in color limbo. So I'm kind of exploring options, because I want to finish coloring my comic book, right? And I don't want to, there's like frames that are partially colored, and where like it would look weird if I tried to. And the other thing, like I put all my eggs in the Copic basket with the markers, because at the time they were the only ones that were refillable. So I looked at like the Prismacolors, and Winsor Newton had some out, and I'm like, well, I would have to replace those markers for the same cost when they run out. So I really like the economics of just doing the Copics for basically ever, and being able to refill them. So anyway, now, and another one that I had looked at was the Blick Studio markers, but they weren't. They were good. They were much cheaper initially, but they weren't refillable. They are refillable now, so I'm taking. I'm seriously considering investing in those. And it's not, when I was doing my Copics, I um th- there used to be, when I lived up in Washington, there was a local Hobby Lobby, and so I would print out one of those 40% off coupons like every day, and after work I would swing by Hobby Lobby and get the next color I needed, and I had a list of colors that I wanted to get, and so I put a fair amount of thought on it, and I didn't buy every color, and sometimes the colors on the caps can be deceiving. So sometimes the color you think you're buying, it looks different on paper, and there's colors that I wouldn't have bought because they're like only that far away from the next color to it in their palette. But it's not the end of the world or anything. So but yeah, so I spent like, I took about 3 years to build up my collection of Copics, one marker at a time, that way. I mean, I started off using the coupons on like the set of six. It had like the set of the neutral grays, and the set of the six flesh tones and primary colors and whatever, because that was, you get a better deal that way. But anyway, now that Blick, and they have like they have a lot less of a color range with the Blix, but the way I do my colors now, I mostly do the value with the grays, and they have the cool, warm, and neutral grays, so I dig that. It's, if I was going to do it, I would probably want to buy the whole set at once, and I'm just gonna, cause like, I kind of feel like if I do it, then like next month my Copic refills will be available, and I'll just have like another big set of markers. But so anyway, like right now, because I really don't know how long it's going to take, I'm exploring some other options. I'm getting, if y'all might have seen him advertise the Artesia real brush drawing pens, that they're kind of like my Kuretake brush pen that I love, where it actually has, let's see, where's the lens? There we go. It actually has a bristle tip, so there's actually individual hairs there. And those are water based, so it's kind of like watercolor markers that have watercolor brushes that for each individual color. And for a long time, I thought those were interesting because, so like, okay, let me back up. I've never been crazy about the detail ability on the Copics because I like fine tips, and I've switched. They have a fine tip, but it's still not like I can get a much finer line with my Kuretake than I can with a Copic. So like if you're in a tight area, sometimes and the ink does bleed a little bit. So sometimes you get a little bit outside of the line that you were working on, and there's solutions for that. But I kind of, when I first saw the real brush markers, I thought, well, that's interesting because well, I'll talk for just a minute longer and then I'll actually start working on something. If those are anywhere near as good as the Kuretake or the Pentel Pocket Brush or some of those, I'd be able to do my color but get much finer detail with it. But for a while anyway, it was that you had to buy the set. So like if you buy a set of, whether you buy a set of 12 or 96 and you use one color more than others, you run out of it, you have to buy the set again. But now they sell individual colors in packs of 4. So if there's a color you use a lot, you just buy some more of those, or you run out of 2 or 3, and that makes it a viable thing again. So I'm going to, so I also got, some of y'all might have seen these advertised. I have this little travel watercolor set that I'm going to try out. And I've been dabbling around with it a little bit. And it comes with a couple of different water brushes. So I have here a green heron that was photographed. Here's my, darn. Here's my reference photo. I'm not sure if that's showing up at all. And here's my ink drawing. This is a green heron that was photographed by my friend Mark Elliott in Texas. He lives near Palo Duro Canyon, which I have always wanted to visit, and when I lived in Texas, we weren't anywhere near there, so I have not been yet, but I will one day. Actually, the next time I go visit my folks, well, imagine my wife and I will go check that out. So, I've got a page where I kind of made some notes about the colors, and I'm just going to point this down and work on this a little bit. And I'm not an experienced watercolorist. This is not what I normally do, so this is, you could say this is outside of my comfort zone for sure. So I'm just going to start off with going pretty light. I'm going to try and do a little bit of wet on wet and get some warm tones in. And, I probably should have scanned this just so I would have it in case I really mess it up, because I like the drawing. And if I mess this up, I'm going to wish that I had another copy that I could work on. So I'm going to use my psychic powers and predict that somewhere somebody's going, yeah, we can tell you're not an experienced watercolorist. For a long time, I just did exclusively black and white, and then when I decided I really needed to up my color game, that was when I started investing in the Copics. And yeah, so I enjoy the water brushes. I'm not remotely expert in their use, but I think it's a pretty neat idea. And I can see where, like, dedicated watercolorists really just prefer to stick with their studio brushes. A lot of the time, I carry a backpack with me, and um, a lot of the time my available time to draw or work on things is on the go. So I will often just, whip out the backpack and whip out the art supplies and work on something for 5 or 10 minutes while I'm waiting until I can do whatever thing I need to do. And so having something that is a very portable system works out well for me. So this is over 10 minutes long now, so I guess I'm going to cut it short. Anyways, while I am figuring out my color dilemma, it is, I hate to say it, but it is kind of holding up my projects. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So, in addition to, there we go. Okay, so in addition to the comic project, I am also working on something that I have decided to call Presidential Candidates of Questionable Vitality. In other words, zombie presidential candidates. I'm doing every candidate from both major parties, and then also I'm going to try and squeeze in some of the third party candidates also. So I started with Jay Inslee, and none of these are finished, but I've been working on them for a little while. Jay Inslee is the governor of the state I just left, Washington, and he was one of the first ones to drop out, but I thought I would do people who I'd start with the people who dropped off and then get caught up. And here we have Kristen Gillibrand. There's my reference photo. So when I do these, I always use the goofiest pictures I can find. Okay, a little bit of history. I started doing these back in 2012. So I did Obama and McCain, and then I got too busy with my day job. And then I didn't do it in... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I started these in 2008. Right. Okay. 2012, I was too busy with my day job. And then in 2016, I did Trump and Hillary. And they both had, like, great pictures for me to use as reference. I don't have those with me right now. But, so when I first started it, I was using, like, just, like, their kind of stock, like, a lot of presidential candidates are members of the Senate, so they have their just their Senate photo with, like, the permagrin, like. So I was using those, but then, like, I was looking around for reference photos, and sometimes these people get really animated, and a photographer will take a picture of them while they're making, while they're in mid word, and they're, like, making a funny face, and that makes, like, I really enjoy using that for zombie reference. So my disclaimer is that this is not meant to express hatred for any party or candidate, and it's certainly not meant as a threat. It's just meant to inject a little bit of fun into something that is a divisive part of our culture. There's Mike Bloomberg doing his best impersonation of the Grinch. So all of those start off with, like, a normal portrait, and then I start looking at where I want to add exposed muscle tissue and bone and that kind of thing. And it's actually a lot of fun. And I find it actually a wonderful anatomy exercise. So next time I'm going to get a little bit more into that and have some more of that to show. I just wanted to kind of give a teaser. And I'll also hopefully have some more information on what I'm going to be doing about color, and that's just kind of my update on what's been going on. So thanks for watching, y'all. Have a good day, and I will see you later. Bye.